it just feels like within the Giants organization that, and this goes back to even last year, that they would keep Schoen and not Daboll. And I think that that's the worst thing they could do. And even with the young rookie quarterback, stud rookie quarterback, with all the potential and excitement, there's still such a dark cloud over this organization with now the uncertainty of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get darker. I really do. I think that the one thing you can't have happen the rest of the way is complete and utter turmoil and disarray. And on the heels of the report and the conversation yesterday that you just referenced with Sean and some others, like, all right, if they were going to fire him after the Denver game and they decided not to, well, that shows you what they really think of him, and you're probably one bad game away maybe from being fired this season. And listen, I think everything's on the table at this point here. When you look at the next 8 games, see, the next 4 are an opportunity for every anti-Daboll voice to say, because I don't think they're going to win this weekend. And if they do, that changes things a little bit. But if they don't beat the Bears, I don't think you're beating Green Bay, the Lions, or up in New England either. So there's a very good chance they lose their next 4. And if the Bears game particularly is ugly, if it is ugly, I think we might get some swift action right after that game.
I was going to say, they still have the bye week coming in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I would now, and this week I've been saying just end it already. And I'm not trying to get people to lose their jobs. And I've been a Daboll supporter, so this is not a Daboll witch hunt like some others in the media. I just feel like I personally have reached the conclusion that it's time for a change. And we would have done that a year ago. I gave out hope that he could get things going with Jackson Dart. And even with the success of finding the rookie quarterback and having some success, it's still not good enough because of the defense, because of the kicking situation, because of the way they cough up leads. It's just the whole thing for me is not good enough. I would make that decision now. Move on from Schoen, move on from Daboll, so you don't have all this nonsense and speculation, and it could just be about trying to finish as strong as they can with Kafka handling the reins here and having the Giants look to the future by knowing they're going to need to replace these two.
I got to say one thing, though, because you just said it, and I've said it as well, and we say it because we're sensitive to people's livelihoods, really. Wow. And it's coming from a very good place, right? But, like, in what world do we have to offer context to providing, strong opinions on somebody's job security when all you do is lose? Right. I mean, like if we were having this conversation about Aaron Glenn, like maybe some people were, before they beat Cincinnati, or if they don't win again the rest of the way, which, by the way, obviously Glenn's coming back next year, but, maybe that's where you want to offer a little bit more contextualization, like, hey, because it's 1 year, 2-7, 2-7, 2-7. What are we doing? It's like we're jumping through hoops and skipping rope and going through all these physical and mental gymnastics to explain why we don't think that Brian Daboll should be back for year 5 when the last 3 have been terrible.
Right. There's no...
What are we doing?
I do understand the thought process of not wanting to blow everything up, and especially when you feel like they identified their franchise quarterback and have shown that they could have some success. However, you can't sit there with a straight face and tell me that you don't think you could do better than Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, and look at their record for the 4 years. It's just not good enough. So, you're going to hold out the hope that maybe Daboll could get a turnaround next year with Jackson Dart? He might be able to. Nobody's saying definitively that they're going to win 3 games again or 2 games again through the first 9 next year. You don't know. You would hope it would be better with Neighbors back, with Scadaboo, with a whole nother year. But I can't guarantee that. And the way that Joe Schoen has picked players and the way that things have gone, and there's a litany of reasons. It's not just the records off of 1 bad year. It's a culmination of 4 years of ineptitude to the highest levels, futility to the highest levels, a horrific record.
In the division, against Philly and Dallas. I mean, embarrassed very, very often. Think about this. Imagine if Aaron Boone had 3 straight years of 74 wins, right? Or Mendoza won 72 games 3 years in a row. Or Tom Thibodeau, or now Mike Brown, had records of 29 and whatever the rest of the math is to equal 82. I haven't had enough coffee yet to get that very quickly. Is anybody getting on the air saying, well, I don't know if we should make a change? I just don't understand. And I am not trying to be callous, but I guess I'm done presenting this softly. Like the Giants, the standard has to be the standard.
Think about it.
I don't get this.
I love that you just brought in the other examples in this town. Find me the other combination in this town that has failed worse than Schoen and Daboll and is still around.
Yeah, the only thing that was close, and it wasn't even to this extent, was the was the Douglas and Robert Sala.
And they're gone.
And it wasn't even as bad as this.
That's my point. They're gone, right? So the Rangers went with the new head coach when even their prior regime had more success than Schoen and Daboll have ever had. New head coach. Carlos Mendoza is on the hot seat going in year 3 after taking a Mets team to the NLCS a couple of years ago.
Yep.
He's on the hot seat, and his team won 83 games. Like, the equivalent is not even fair.
No, that's why I went like with 72 games, or
it's not even close.
I don't even know if that's fair. It's probably in the 60s. That's why I bring that up. I just
Cashman and Boone.
Yeah, well, exactly.
People call all the time talking about firing those guys. All they do is win every year and get to the postseason. It's not even close.
I'm not even saying that it should be. Maybe in the eyes of some, it's a little different for Cashman because there was so much success. Right. So there's a different layer of analysis here. But if you didn't have any prior, like if you didn't carve out this legacy here, like Cashman, I love or hate Cashman, the guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? I believe that, and I think many other people around baseball do.
Earned it.
He's earned it with all the championship. He's been a great executive, even if we're tired of it a little bit.
And the sustained success, even without the championships. I know that's a huge part of it, but show me the other franchise in sports, period, that has had as much sustained success for 30 freaking years than the New York Yankees.
Well, there is none. And that's really what I'm saying here, Sal. Think about this. So we go through this every single summer about Cashman, to a lesser extent to Aaron Boone. Whenever the Yankees get banged out in October, which is always before we want them to, we go through the same conversations. What about the manager? What about the GM? What about ownership? But yet here we are talking about the Giants like, I don't know. Should the Giants move on from Brian Daboll? What do you think? They don't win.
We need to start raising the expectations. And that's why I would just stop Now, look, you alluded to this the other day. I don't even want to get into the health part of it because it's just such a horrible thing. And that's beyond sports. That's much more important. Mr. Mara and his battle with his illness and his life, that's much more important than the results of sports. But what we do is talk about the sports. So I understand that that's going to be... It's going to alter maybe the timeline of some of these decisions or maybe have some kind of impact that we don't necessarily want to get into. But if you just go based off of what they have done here, you can't tell me that Mr. Mara gave Daboll and Schoen every opportunity to succeed here. He was patient. He gave them multiple quarterbacks. It's definitive in my mind that they need to move on and they can do better. We need to start raising our expectations here. Okay, there's potential. Great, they got the quarterback. Now find somebody who can actually win some football games or draft players that can help you win some football games. Schoen has been awful at his job, and Daboll has not been anywhere near good enough.
We're on the same page here, and the Daboll stuff is probably a little bit easier because we can just point to 2-7, 2-7, 2-7, whatever, the things that are a little bit more tangible. Whereas with Schoen, I think in the eyes of some, Joe probably gets... not our eyes, but in the eyes of some, maybe a little separation from Daboll or a reprieve or maybe even a respite from being possibly fired.
I'd like to know how.
Well, that's where I'm going. Like, what's the justification for that? The Giants have injuries, which every other team in the NFL does. Look at the depth. I mean, the depth is directly correlated to the general manager doing his job at a high level. So, to me, there's really two ways to look at this, right? Number one, do you think that those two men have gotten a fair shake? And to me, it is unequivocally yes. Right. They've had a long runway, with all due respect, to get this thing going. The other point of analysis would be, and this is more about Daboll, do you want to risk the marriage or the relationship, the comfort level, however you want to frame it, the ascent of Jackson Dart by taking away a head coach that he's obviously played pretty well for? And my answer will be yes, because I think there's other coaches who would be better at all the other stuff and would be equally successful with Jackson Dart.
BT Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Dom is in Westport starting us off. What's up, Dom?
Hello, Dom.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
What's up, buddy?
Great show as always. First of all, Sal, thanks for turning me on to the Denver Broncos. I've made some good money with them the last few weeks.
It didn't cover last night.
Didn't make it last night.
But I also did warn you about that last night.
You did. You said don't touch.
Right read last night.
And I said take the points. You said don't touch. I said take the points.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. But you know, the last couple of weeks they did cover. But you know, in terms of Daboll's dead man walking, and I want to make a reference to Denver. How about Vance Joseph? You know, he was a head coach. He's been under a couple of good OCs, right? A good head coaches in terms of offense, Cliff Kingsbury and Sean Payton. And look what he's done with that defense. And the Giants definitely have enough horses on that defense to really maybe turn this thing around. And he wasn't terrible with Denver. I mean, he was 5-11, 6-10 without a great team. No real great quarterback. So what do you think about that?
Yeah,
I mean, Vance Joseph does he get you excited at all? Not at all for me. Thank you, Dom.
But I understand why Dom would bring that up. I think a lot of Giant fans are in alignment here thinking, well, we got potential on this defense. We need to figure that out because we like the young quarterback and the offense has not been the problem. Even without Scadabu, without Neighbors, the offense is not the primary issue. I'm not saying it's been great. It's not the problem. The problem is the defense. Can't do anything. And they were supposed to be the identity of this team coming in. So I understand the appeal of a guy like Vance Joseph. However, come on. This is New York here. It's the Giants. Enough with the maybe type guy. Yeah, there's potential there. Oh, this one side of the ball. Just go get a real, no doubt about it, head coach for a team.
You got to get a guy who's going to show up, and hopefully he can flash a little bling at that podium, not in an arrogant way, but everybody knows that man's got a Super Bowl ring on that finger. And to me, the more I think about this, that man looks like McCarthy. I don't know that they would ever do this. I would give serious consideration. I've staved off the Rex Ryan to the Jets, before Aaron Glenn and before others. I just felt like that ship has sailed. I don't think he's a great head coach. If I'm the Giants and I really want to be a little bit out of the box and get somebody that can galvanize the defense, get the fans pumped up, and also bring some championship DNA, how about a ticket of McCarthy as the head coach and Rex as the DC?
Yeah, I don't think Rex wants to come back as a DC.
I don't know. I mean, you don't know until you ask him. I mean, maybe he's getting tired sitting at that desk. He's been at that desk for a long time.
Maybe at some point he wants to get back in and knows that he doesn't have any power because he didn't want to come back in as anything other than a head coach.
No one's hiring him as a head coach is what I'm saying, so that might be his way back in.
I think we can come up with a bunch of different names that are intriguing. We also don't know how things are going to shake out the rest of the way. But if you fire Daboll now and get a head start on things, to me, that is advantageous as opposed to waiting things through. Now, my bigger concern than that, because there will be other options, and I would bet it's more likely than not Daboll is going to be out, especially if those reports are true that they were going to fire him. I don't think you go from we're going to fire him to...
Dude, he's a 3-year extension.
Yeah, all of a sudden keeping him. My bigger concern is Joe Schoen. I think Joe Schoen is worse at his job than Brian Daboll is at his. So to me, even if you fire Daboll, and fans are going to be excited about that, or not excited, but just excited about the change, okay, let's get a new head coach in here and maybe overlook the importance of Schoen. And I think that's the bigger issue. So to me, it doesn't matter who the head coach is unless it's somebody that's going to come in and have more power than Joe Schoen. But outside of that type of hire, it doesn't matter if you're keeping Joe Schoen in the building.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we're getting very close to here, especially with this report, again, the depth of it, what's true, and I'm not here to refute anybody's report or work. I don't do that. But but let's assume that it's true, and for the most part, I do. The one thing you can't have the rest of the way is like disarray. And that's why it's one of the first things I said to start the show. And I think we're getting perilously close to that. Now, Shane's not involved in the disarray because you don't hear from Shane on a day-to-day basis. He's in the weeds, and, we could deal with that at the end of the season. But if they come back from Chicago in a body bag and they just look lifeless and they get out-coached and they get punked, I mean, how do you keep this thing going? I mean, how do you not make them? And then you're looking at Green Bay, you're looking at Detroit, up in New England. You can't just have it where it's a death march to the plank. That's why even if it was Kafka, who I don't know if he would be a good head coach, maybe just a different energy or a different message. You got a lot of football to go. And you got 8 games to go, Sal.
And knowing that change is coming, I think, is the most, at least you're giving the fan base, hey, we know that this is unacceptable. We tried it. We were patient. Change is coming.
Correct.
Don't worry, Giant fans. Dean is calling from Manhattan. What's up, Dean?
Hey, fellas. Love your show. First things is go Johnnies.
Yes. Big one tomorrow, Dean. Let's go.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, man.
Me too.
But this year with the Giants compared to last year, 2 things. The offensive scoring is about 5 points better this year than last year. But the defensive average scoring between this year and last year is 10 points more. Mm-hmm. So defense is where we are sorely lacking. And, Shane is just not doing it. You see with the frustration with Brian Burns, And I don't know if you remember, I looked at the highlights back in the day during Parcells and the Giants
glory days.
The glory days indeed. Oh, my God. But you remember there was like this scene that was showing where Belichick was talking to the defense?
Yes, on the bench, yeah.
And then Parcells walks over and says something to Belichick like, hey, like, take care of this or look at this or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then Bill Belichick the old-time coaches, right? Parcells telling Bill Belichick, hey, make sure you got this covered, make sure you got that covered. And Belichick turns and is like, yeah, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see that, I don't think, on the sideline this year with the Giant coach.
Dean, I don't think you see that too often around the NFL. Thanks for the call. It's a good point. Like, one of my issues with Daboll, whether it's Graham Gano, whether it's the defense, like, yeah, you're in charge, man. You're the CEO. Like, the buck's got to stop with you at some point. So I understand that, and I that's a great video where Parcells comes over to Belichick. He's like, I got you. We're good. We're good. But I don't really think that offensive-minded coaches around the NFL, not just the Giants, I feel like they're in their little bubble, and they let their defensive guys do their job, not like the old days where the head coach was kind of involved in everything.
There aren't enough head coaches. Guys get head coaching jobs that are either offensive minds or defensive minds. I want a head coach. And I still think that Daboll has, like, if I believe that years ago, I still believe it now that Daboll, I don't think he's a bad football coach, put it that way. He's the way he's worked up, his resume, all that stuff, who he worked under. Yep. I believe there's still potential there. I just think it's time for a change here, and too much has gone wrong with Brian Daboll with the Giants. So you could say the same thing for other coaches, too, that have failed here before, go on to have success elsewhere. I wouldn't be stunned if that's the case. As far as being a head coach, when you hire a first-time head coach, there's going to be a learning curve. And by year 4, it should be better than what it's been right now. They're still losing football games the same way, even with some of the character traits that he has. Back to the caller's point, I do believe it's not, I don't look at him and just say he's an offensive mind. Mm-hmm. Although the way the defense is played, they were better under Wink than they were under Bowen. And it does feel like, just hire Bowen, let him go out there, play a conservative style of defense, and we should be able to do enough overall. The special teams have been bad. He hasn't had a grasp on everything, but I think he's got the potential to be a good head coach, just not here and not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously with you here. And, in a lot of ways, and that's kind of stinks for Brian Daboll, but it is what it is. The circumstances of how he started, kind of created this template of expectations, and we were all feeling it. Just think about his, number one, they had a really good first year. We know that. But think about his first game. Here he is chewing out Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
he's
right.
going for the extra. He's going for the 2-point. Like, you're seeing an aggressive mindset, just like the sweatshirt. He just looked like the Giants. Like, he looked like he fit the Giants organization. And then things unraveled. Who knows? If they go 3 and was that a 17-game season? Yeah, it was. If they go 3 wins that first year, right, instead of 9 wins and winning a road playoff game, is there incremental progress enough that would justify him to still be on path to get the job done? You might be able to make that case,
especially without Daniel Jones, because he probably wouldn't have been back. And
correct.
Now you start that clock earlier. What if they selected a guy like Jackson Dart year 2 with Brian Daboll?
Then now he's probably you're building monuments to the guy. So when you go 9 wins and then you go back down to 3 and 4 and you just languish and you're drafting top 5, top 6 as they have been for a while, it's like, whoa, you started well, now you're going backwards. Versus maybe Aaron Glenn, maybe Aaron goes 2 and 15 this year or 3 and 14 max, and then next year he wins 5 or 6. But like, okay, here they are incrementally building. It's the opposite for Daboll.
BT Sal on the Fan. More calls when we come back.